Hello everyone and welcome back to SIG Blender. In the last tutorial we created this ground so we know the perspective of our scene, and we also set up the camera so it'll be where the camera actually will be when we take the shot. In this episode I want to be focusing on the sky and what the sky will be mainly looking like. So right now it looks like it's just a little dark gray space as we've been seeing for a while, but that's just because we're in the solid viewport. If we go into rendered, you can see, well, it's actually the same, just gray sky. And also, I'm sorry if my computer lags while I'm looking in rendered, because it does take up quite a bit of CPU power to fully render while you're looking into the scene. Anyway, as you can see now in our rendered bit, it kind of looks like just very creepy, because the only thing lighting it right now is this one small lamp right in front of the building. But we can change that. If we click on the world tab, which will be on anything selected, we'll have the world tab, and on the surface we hit use nodes. We can now change the color of the sky to be anything we want. Scrolling up and down changes the brightness, and moving around in this wheel changes the color. Something we want to do a nice dark blue. That'll probably be good for when the time comes. We're also going to light this scene with a sun node and with some ambient occlusion. So don't worry, this won't be the last of the lighting. You'll see. We just want to choose a dark color for the sky. Like that. Maybe a little more gray, a lot more gray. Like that. And we'll go back to solid for now. So, besides just changing the background color, I also want to create some clouds for our scene, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to make a plane go over the scene, and then we are going to put a bunch of little puffs onto the plane with a particle effect, and that will be our cloud. So step one, I guess, will be to make the plane. So we had our plane called ground, now we can make our plane called sky. When we actually put textures to everything, whoops, it's a little too high. We'll go into, when we go and actually put materials and shaders on everything, we're going to make this invisible, and only the clouds that we particle onto it will be visible. Alright. So we have this, we're going to subdivide it like we did with the last one. Just give it a whole bunch of cuts, increase our face count like you do to 13,000, getting a little scary, but that's fine. So we want to make a little poof, as I like to call them, and we can create a UV sphere for that, and hit tab to go to shading and smooth out the faces. So we have our, we'll call it poof, we have our sky, and now we want to put a whole bunch of poofs onto the sky. And how do we do that? Well, obviously particle systems would be a modifier. You knew it was going to happen. Where are they? You don't want a particle instance, you want a particle system. And then when you click it, it adds a whole new tab for it, and if you hit this little button, this button usually means jump to the tab that this can be found at. So here we are, and there's a whole bunch of scary settings. But don't worry, we don't really worry about a lot of them. The first thing you want to do is change your particle type from emitter to hair. And now you can see there's a bunch of hair sticking out of our object. And then we're going to turn our render from path, which are these hairs, to the object. And we're going to make that object a poof. Look, we got a bunch of them sprayed all across our sky now. We're going to turn the random size up to 1. That way some of them are super tiny and some of them are super big. And we're going to scale them on up. I'm actually also going to, in the poof object, move them downward. I guess that's moving them in the Y. So if you move them in the Y, that'll move them down. We kind of want them a little down. I actually don't like the UV sphere as a poof as much as a icosphere, so I'm going to delete this poof and create an icosphere, and then use that. rename that to be a poof. Poof. They're just a little nicer with the faces, because we'll be able to smooth them out, and it'll look just as good with a lot less faces. So we're going to increase that size on up. We are going to see, change any of these? I don't think so. Let's move it backwards a little. Backwards just a little bit. What we could do is we can mess with it to make it a little more random what the sky looks like. And we're also going to do one more thing to the roof, which I forgot actually to do. So as you can see right now, they're all kind of on the same level, which doesn't really look natural. Ooh, someone's driving fast, so have you heard that? They don't really look natural. They're on the same floor, all on the same height. So what we're going to do is we're going to displace this plane according to a texture. So like darker areas will move it down and lighter areas will move it up. And do that to kind of make the plane not so flat. So we're going to add a modifier, and it's going to be a displace modifier. For texture, you're going to hit new, and then use the tab that we do to go to the texture thing. And instead of type image or movie, which is pure black, which is why it's shifted up so much, we're going to choose one of these. You can click through them to see what they're like. This is the texture, and obviously dark spots. Like I kind of said the inverse. I said dark goes down. Dark actually goes up, and white stays where it is, or goes down. So this is what Voronoi is, and you can mess with the settings of it. You have Stuki. Let's all increase the size a little bit for each one. That could be useful, but I think there is actually one literally called clouds. I don't know if that's meant to model clouds or not, but hey, I might as well go for it. I'm gonna zoom in a bit so it's a little more flat like that. Can we mess with the navel a bit maybe? Not gonna change anything. Maybe depth. Oh, it's just playing with it in a weird way. We'll zoom out a bit more. I think we also want to go back to the original modifier and change the strength. This is how much it's affecting it, as you can see. So now, if we hit 0, you can see the clouds are starting to look like they're a little more varied. Actually, are they? Are they not moving? Oh, they're not moving. Well, that's sad. Oh, because the particle system has to happen after the displace. There we go. Now they're grouping with it. Perfect. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to this displace and mess with it a little more, maybe. Not like that. We do want it to be more wavy. All right. I think I'm actually gonna scale these up. You can also scale in edit mode the original poof, and it'll change it. Let's move it down again then. Whoa. There we go. And we're gonna kind of decrease the rarity. Since we're currently emitting 1,000, if we turn that down to like say 500. 500 should be good. Decrease the size a little bit more again. Like so. Maybe move it a little, rotate it. Wanna show off some more clouds maybe. Looks nice-ish. We can't really tell what it'll look like until you really start to render it, in which case we can play out with it a little more. For now, that's what the sky is going to look like. If we hide this, it'll just hide the particles too. So yeah, when we get around to texturing, this little sky thing will disappear, and we will see the what is the word? We'll see just the clouds, not just the materials of the background as well. For now, I'd say we have pretty good clouds. in the next tutorial, I think we're going to finally be making our little guy person sitting next to this tree, which will be quite the process. Expect that one to be pretty long. And then the tutorial after that, we're going to give him a bone structure so he can move around his limbs. I hope to see you.